Hello and welcome back to the Checkpoint Reach podcast. I'm your host Luke Eldon, and this is a new series that will cover the latest news topics in a shorter form. We're going to go more in depth on these topics in our weekly podcast. Anyway, I'm as ever joined by my fellow gamers and friends Sud, Perks and Mai. How you doing, guys?
Hello.
How's it going?
Very good. Very good. Yeah.
Yeah, you're very happy, Mai.
Yeah, you've got to be happy. You've got to be happy when we're shitting on Anthem.
Well, yeah, because this just gives you vindication, really, doesn't it? Anyway, we'll get to that, I'm sure, when we start discussing this topic. But before we do get started, remember to subscribe to our channel for more gaming content each week. Give this video a like to help the channel to grow as well. Anyway, let's get started with this week's news topic, and it's Anthem players are protesting recent loot drop changes with a week-long blackout. In this article by Polygon, Anthem players are vowing to log out of the polarizing online game this week as a stand against recent loot drop changes. Unless developer BioWare fixes the quality of loot drops, these players say they won't be playing for at least a few days. This comes from a patch that was issued just 2 days ago. Apparently, it tweaked which types of loot higher level players will encounter, removing the 2 lowest ranked types from drops for players above level 30. But BioWare apparently did not increase the drop rates for much better loot in the process, meaning that players are still struggling to get the MW and legendary class drops they crave. A nerf does not get a buff, essentially, and the player base is not happy. After a weekend of complaints, a user known as Afinder called for a boycott. It's time that BioWare realises that players want to taste the loot shooter, says Afinder. The ask is that everyone stops playing from today, which was March 11th, until March 15th, and it seems like plenty of people are on board, as Afinder's thread on Reddit is currently sitting at more than 10,000 upvotes. This, again, is just more bad, negative PR for Anthem and BioWare. What do we think? Because, you know, we've discussed this quite a lot on our podcasts of late.
I'm surprised. I'm surprised, to be honest, that they realised that it was a blackout, because I don't know how you can tell the difference when no one's playing the game to begin with.
Coming in hot.
Yeah, light has to be on in the first place. Look, I mean, this is just the next in a long line of things that we called and can sit here and say, I told you so. This is something that was supposed to have been tweaked before the patch from a few days ago even came about. It was supposed to be a part of their previous update. They had to renege on that and make it part of what was supposed to be the March 12th update. They got it out early by 3 days, and they got it out wrong. So it's, yeah,
Not
just
good.
the next thing. It's just more bad press for them. And in the process of trying to make people happier by doing things quicker, they've actually messed things up, and maybe they did actually need a few more days.
Yeah, do you know what? I'm beginning to think EA, if they could get away with it, would love to just throw this game in the bin and be done with it.
Already?
I really do. Yeah, I genuinely do. If they could get away with it, I think they'd love to just turn it off and just focus on Apex Legends and Battlefield 5, because it's just one disaster after another for this game, isn't it, really, now? It's getting ridiculous. I mean...
Well, the problem that I've got is, as someone who hasn't bought the game and isn't really interested in buying the game, you know, off the bat, I've got to get that out there. It's not like it was a game that I was interested in. But as a potential consumer, and obviously it being a live service game that they continue to update, all I've seen is complete and utter bad negative press. So why on earth, as a potential buyer, would I want to buy this game at this point?
Well, that probably explains the big drop. I mean, there was I know this is always the case with games. I think there was a 70-odd% drop-off, wasn't there, in sales week over week, which, to be fair, isn't too far off the norm with big titles, but still, it's I think they would have expected maybe a slightly less drop-off than that. But yeah, obviously the bad publicity gets around, and I think overall the long-term life of the game is going to suffer because of it. Well, not only the long-term life, it seems like the short-term life with this this blackout is suffering as well. I do question though whether this is actually going to work in terms of, because as you know, Matty already alluded to, the player base isn't exactly that high anyway. So is a drop of 10,000. Is it even going to matter really in terms of, you know, it's not like this is a game. It's not like this is Fortnite and that, you know, people are boycotting Fortnite or something. This is Anthem, which isn't doing well anyway.
No, that's true. But
I mean,
we spoke about off the podcast as well. So, how come it's only for a week? Why is it not until
I don't understand that.
Patch it the way they want it to be patched?
Yeah, that's the point I made to you off air. I don't quite understand why they've decided, oh, we're just going to black out for it. Why not just go, okay, we're going to organise this thing where we all boycott the game, blah, 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 until, you know, we feel that the changes are what we want. And, you know, they've just kind of gone, oh, it's going to be 1 week. You know, surely BioWare looking at that, or EA, whoever it is, are going to look at that and just go, we'll just look over for a week. Because I'm pretty sure, and to be honest, how many of these things do we see over and over again in games and films or whatever it is, where people go, oh, we're boycotting, and then a day later you see the same people, you know, they're moaning on Twitter or whatever it is, saying we're going to boycott the game, and then suddenly you see them on the game 2 days later. So it's like, a lot of these times, people don't really stick to it a lot of the time.
No.
Well, don't forget, these 10,000 people on Reddit may not necessarily be people who've actually bought the game. You know, they could just be haters of EA.
Yeah, I mean, people do that anyway, don't they? The EA games, whether they're the dev or the publisher, they always get hated on, and they always get a large following saying they're boycotting everything they do. I think you guys have already pretty much said this, but the post itself is sitting at nearly 13,000 upvotes now. And how many of those 13,000 people are actually going to boycott the game during the dates suggested? Probably not 13,000. You know, if the percentage ratio is in the high sort of 90s, going towards all of them, then this could be quite a substantial moment in the game, or in the life cycle of the game, should I say? But unless we actually were to see how many of those people did this, which is obviously something that you could never really have access to, we'll never really know if it's going to make much of a difference or not.
Well, the angle I want
pioneer perks, because you've already traded the game in, so you've already been doing a blackout.
Yeah, except I've moved out and I'm now living across the country. I'm never going back. So
you might go back.
It's a bit different for me.
Well, I think the angle I wanted to look at though with this was the angle of what do BioWare and EA do. That's sort of what I'm interested in now.
Fold.
Well, yeah, I mean, I alluded to earlier, I do think EA, if they could get away with it, would happily just bin the game off, because for them now, it seems this game is just not very important anymore. Now, I could be wrong about that. You know, I'm sure if you spoke to them, they wouldn't say that publicly, but you know, privately, there must be meetings going on thinking, you know, let's try and distance ourselves from this game and focus on Battlefield and Apex, because
it's really worrying for BioWare. We love BioWare, and we've talked about in the past how we wanted this game to succeed for their future. It's not looking good.
It's just strange, isn't it? Because they've got Apex, which has been a great success, and this game, you know, has kind of come out and not been great, and not been well received by fans, not been well received by the press, and then they're already advertising Battlefield 5's Battle Royale mode. So it's like, it's as if they've already moved on. To be honest, it's as if they're already going, let's just focus on something that might actually be successful. You know, I'm hearing more about Battlefield 5's Battle Royale mode in the last, you know, few days than Anthem.
Yeah.
So it's strange.
Yeah, it's definitely worrying. I mean, we've all, well, not Mai, as he stressed that he definitely hasn't bought the game, but us three, me, you, and Perks played the game, Sud, and we didn't really enjoy it either, did we? So
I enjoyed it for about
into a lot of people's thinking.
I enjoyed it for maybe 2 or 3 days, but you know, a game like that you're supposed to enjoy for weeks, months even. So,
well, years,
that's the problem. Yeah, even years. So
they have a 10-year idea and a 10-year plan, and that's clearly incredibly optimistic.
What doesn't help the game as well? Just one quick point before you carry on. But one point I want to make is which doesn't help the game is what comes out on Friday, Division 2, and that's going to eat away even further at the game's player base, because with the blackout and with Division 2 come out, I can see a lot of people just going, oh, well, I'm just going to play Division 2. You know, because that's a game that seems like it's going to work properly at launch.
You played the beta, didn't you?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really good. And from what I can look, we don't, until the game's been out a month or so, we don't know this 100%. but it seems like they've got a clearer plan than EA had with Anthem and BioWare. So, and from what I can see, from what I'm hearing, from previews and stuff, the game is good. Like, the quality's good, whereas Anthem's quality was, questionable. So,
yeah, we've touched on in podcasts as well how they haven't decided to take ideas or inspiration from other like looter shooter games or like your Destinies, Warframes and stuff like that. Apparently they didn't take notice of any of those games, they said, in the development of this of Anthem. It feels like they've suffered because of it.
I know the saying is shoot themselves in the foot, but they've just blown their own head off completely by doing that. They've ignored everything that was good and pretty much said, yeah, we don't need to worry about that, we'll just do what we want, and it's backfired horribly. I mean, like Sid said, the Division 2 is, well, some people are already playing it. I've seen my friends list, there's some people on it already, but the official launch will be Friday. That game, whilst I'm not overly excited about it myself, has a lot more to it than Anthem does. We know that from the information that's out there and what's been revealed already. And Destiny 2's just gone into the season of the Drifter, and more people have gone back to that game. So this is worst possible timing for people to be thinking, you know what, let's take a break from Anthem, because they have a new Destiny season, they have a brand new game in the Division 2. It probably doesn't recover from this, and I would be amazed if it ever became bigger than those two games.
Well, one more quick point as well about just the difference between Anthem and Division 2 is, you look at when Anthem launched the days before, there was people constantly bashing the game even before it came out, worried about the game. Whereas with Division 2, I've seen, you always see a few detractors, but I've seen mostly positive press. And it's like, that usually speaks volumes, doesn't it, about the game before it comes out. I've not heard many people worried about the Division 2, whereas with Anthem, everyone was kind of worried about it. So I think that's a big difference as well.
Yeah, well, it harkens back to a lot of things we've been saying in this podcast. Like, by no means are all four of us wanting to hate on Anthem. It's one of them things, like, we want every game to be a success. We want every game to be good, because at the end of the day, we're playing them and we're paying money out of our own pocket to play them. It's not like we want every game to be a failure. But just EA in general, what they've been doing in recent years is just releasing shocking release after shocking release. Like, their quality control is just appalling. And I had absolutely no faith in them to deliver a live service shooter. You can come back at me and say, oh, well, look at Apex Legends. But Apex Legends hid the fact that it was made by EA from the general public. That says how tarnished their name is, when you have to hide who's publishing your game and just sort of stealth release it out of the blue. Well, I mean, if people knew Apex Legends was being made by EA, say 6 months before it came out, it would not have had the success that it had. It could be exactly the same game with exactly the same mechanics, and it would not have had the same success had people known it was being published by EA. That's how much their name's tarnished, and it's one of them things where
it's not even
a lot to work on.
It's not even just about EA now, it's about BioWare as well, isn't it? And you talk about Apex Legends, but look at Respawn now. I mean, their reputation now after Apex is way higher than it was before. People were worried about Respawn after Titanfall 2, and rightfully so, but now, everything's looking rosy for them.
Yeah.
And maybe there will be a Titanfall 3 at one point, which is good, I hope. But with BioWare, you just don't know anymore. Where they're going to go from here is... Look, I'm not saying BioWare are definitely going to die or be dead, but it's not looking good at the minute.
No, it is worrying.
It's two duds in a row for them, really, isn't it? I mean, Mass Effect Andromeda and Anthem are both serviceable games, but they're not the quality of game that we expect from BioWare. Nowhere near.
No, it's not, and the future does look bleak for BioWare. Do we think this blackout will go ahead?
Well, I suppose it already is, isn't it? Going ahead, technically. Like, have people already started? Was today the day?
The dates encapsulate sort of yesterday through to the 15th, I think. So
it'd be good if.
Do we think that enough people will do it, or do we not?
No, I don't think it'll have any impact, really. I think maybe the first day or two people will talk about it, but after that, I think people will just start going back to the game or not going back to the game. One or the other.
Yeah, honestly, like I said before, I don't think anywhere near the the sort of 12.5 to 13,000 upvoters will actually be people who are live and active in the game anyway. So will it make a big difference in terms of them and the people who have took part in this sort of subreddit? No, probably not. But the game as a whole just doesn't need another nail in the coffin right now, so it will have a negative impact.
Yeah, definitely. It'll be one to watch, and we'll leave that there for now. If you're listening to us on YouTube, remember to subscribe for more gaming content each week, and give this video a like, and also comment below with your opinions on the recent loot changes in Anthem. Also, look out for our podcast that will be coming out later this week, and we'll also discuss this in a lot more detail and other gaming news from the past week. You can follow Checkpoint Reach on social media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at CheckReachPod. And yeah, that's it, guys. Thanks for joining me as ever, and have a good week. We'll chat again soon. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.